Got wood?
Woodworking requires the use of sharp cutters and a good deal of force. If one does not have the proper skill set, it can be dangerous and can result in permanent injury or death. Don't try to perform an operation unless you are certain they are safe for you. If something doesn't feel right, don't do it. Seek instruction and work with great caution with all new or unfamiliar woodworking techniques.
This workshop covers the fundamentals of panel construction, to be used as a substrate for painting. In this video, you'll learn about developing a plan, making a materials and cut list. You'll be exposed to preparing and cutting stock, joining elements, and resolving the structure, and finally finish. You need a plan with dimensions. The plan must be drawn out either on paper or a CAD program. You should work with your instructor, or we can help advise you to help you develop your plan. There are many possible ways to construct a panel for painting. In this video, we'll present a simple design that works well for smaller panels. For this example, we will make a panel that measures 12 inches high, 24 inches long, and 1 1/3 inches deep. We will need to make the perimeter frame a bit undersized. This will accommodate my panel's dimensions, which are 12 inches by 24 inches. So I'll undersize the perimeter frame by 1/4 inch. This will give me 1/8 of an inch overhang that I can resolve later during the finishing process. So, since my panel measures 12 inches by 24 inches, this means my perimeter frame will measure 11 3/4 inches by 23 3/4 inches. From this plan, you can create the cut list. This is a list of all the pieces you need. This will help you be organized in your cuts, so that you can pay better attention to the miter saw during cutting. So my cut list will read: panel 1 at 12 inches by 24 inches, frame 2 at 11 3/4 inches, 2 at 23 3/4 inches. Then, as you cut your pieces, you just mark off the cut list. Materials. I will make the perimeter from 3/4 inch thick poplar, which is a very stable and available hardwood. The wood will be ripped or cut to 1 1/2 inch wide strips. The panel will be made from a 1/4 inch Baltic birch plywood. Baltic birch plywood has a very nice stable construction and a smooth surface. Cutting the frame. We take our prepared stock and inspect it for defects. Datum. Now we take our stock and cut a square end. This is where we're going to start all our measurements from. This is our datum end. We also need to mark the face of our board. This will establish a datum surface. This will always be orientated during cutting against the fence of the miter saw. This will prevent one from cutting the 45-degree miter cuts in the wrong direction. Rough cuts. Rough cuts make the material more manageable and aid in the cutting of the final miter cuts accurately. The cuts are made at a 90-degree angle, so simply measure and mark the lengths needed. With these rough cuts, it's important that you mark and cut the workpieces from 1/2 inch to 1 inch longer than what you actually need. Now it's time to cut the miters. Make a cut and check it for accuracy, since we will be simply cutting off one side of the stock from a 90-degree angle to a 45-degree angle. Setup. Install the miter fence clamp. Place the material on the table of the miter saw with the marked datum face end against the fence. Position the first piece to be cut to the blade. Clamp the material, making sure it is in full contact with the saw's table and fence. Cut the right end of all the remaining lengths, and then check the job. Second miter cut. This is the cut for the left side of the miter. We do an accurate crow's foot measurement for the left side miter joints. Mark the length on the first piece of stock to be cut. In this case, it's 11 3/4 inches. Extend the mark at a 45-degree angle. Place the board on the saw, making sure that, of course, the datum faces against the fence, and bring the blade to the mark. Clamp the board and bring the miter stop block to the already miter cut end. Make the cut. Then use the stop block to make the measure and cut the parallel side. It will be exactly the same length. Repeat this process for the other side of your frame. Cutting the panel. You can cut the panel using the panel saw, table saw, band saw, or even a jig or circular saw. Again, the trick to it is to cut the panel squarish and big, a good 1/4 inch to 1/2 inch larger than the outside dimension of your frame. Once the pieces are cut, it's time to assemble. We will start by joining the frame. Joining will be done using the tape method. This is a method that does not require a complex clamping system. Just some filament tape, glue, and a bit of technique. As long as the materials used are consistent in dimension and not distorted or warped, and the parallel lengths are exactly the same, the joints will go together effortlessly and the frame will be flat and square. Turn the workpieces over, with the miter cuts down, in the correct order or orientation. Using the tape dispenser, cut some tape pieces about 3 inches long. It's good to just attach them to the end of the table. Tape the pieces together snugly and tape the full length of the joint. Flip the tape structure over and put the wood glue on both surfaces of the miters. Then, just bring the ends together and tape. Remove excess glue and check your corners to see that the joints are tight together and lined up. Then, by measuring from corner to corner, inspect the frame to be sure it is square. If the measurements are the same, then the frame is square. Now it's best to let the frame sit overnight for the glue to fully cure. The next day, check the job. Resolving the frame. The next day, re-inspect your work and be sure that the edges are joined and flush. To correct, we use a hand plane or palm sander to resolve the discrepancies. Be gentle and support the workpiece so as not to weaken the joints. Be sure when resolving the edges that you work the entire length of the stock. Joining the panel to the frame. Gather what you'll need, including the panel, assembled frame, square, paper for the table, clamps, glue, and a glue chisel for cleanup. Prepare and organize your workspace. Place wood glue along the leading edge that you'll be placing the panel on. Spread the glue with your little finger. Place the panel and line it up to your frame, remembering to have it overhang about 1/8 of an inch, and start clamping. I work from the center out, and I usually start with the long lengths first. After clamping, you must then remove the excess glue using the chisel and perhaps a sponge. The job isn't done until you inspect your work and clean up the mess in your bench, putting all the bits away. Resolve. Let the glue cure overnight before resolving the panel to the frame. A router will be used to bring the edges of the panel flush to the frame. Note about safety. You must have completed the router training program in addition to the safety orientation in order to use a router in the shop. The router will be outfitted with a flush cutting bit by the staff. The bearing on the bit is set so it rides on the perimeter of the frame, and the cutter slightly overlaps the panel onto the frame. The panel must be secure and both hands must be on the router while cutting. Cut in a clockwise fashion. I like to seal the panel to help stabilize it and prepare it for other paints or coatings. I like to put one thin coat of clear wax-free shellac on both front and back as well as on the frame. This concludes this workshop. The staff will now demonstrate building a panel in the shop. After the woodshop staff does the demonstration, anyone who has not completed the safety orientation must leave immediately. Please, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask. Good luck to you.